This is a complete guide to Autistic Shutdown. I will tell you exactly what it is, why and how it happens, how to prevent it, and how to manage it. I used to shut down quite a lot as a late diagnosed autistic ADHDer. I have found the formula combining my degree in psychology, 20 years of mindfulness practices, and own personal experience. Now I help others prevent and manage shutdowns, as well as overcome autistic burnout for good and stay well. So firstly, what exactly is an autistic shutdown? An autistic shutdown is a state in which an autistic individual withdraws from their environment as a coping mechanism in response to overwhelming sensory stimuli. During a shutdown, the individual may become non-responsive, exhibit extreme tiredness, or show diminished motor coordination and communication abilities. So essentially, it's when the world becomes too much for you and you have to withdraw, come back to yourself, shut everything off, and try to recover. Firstly, I want to talk about the science behind shutdown, because when you understand exactly what is happening and why, you can plan your prevention and recovery much better. And I have found that especially for my clients with PDA, it really helps to understand why and how everything works in order to actually do something about it. So to understand autistic shutdown, first we need to understand polyvagal theory, or how our nervous system works. Firstly, we have parasympathetic response of our nervous system, which is also called ventral vagal or rest and digest response. It's when we are well, relaxed, we can engage in social activities, we feel curiosity, openness, joy, we feel grounded and safe. Then we have sympathetic nervous system response, also called fight or flight response. It happens when there is an external or internal stressor, a stimulus, when we feel there might be a threat, and we activate our nervous system. In a light mode, it might feel like excitement, activation, more energy. If it's activated more severely, we can feel even anger, rage, panic, anxiety, worry, frustration. We can also feel different bodily sensations like shallow breathing, faster heart rate, perspiration, etc. This is when we are activated and we actually feel like we can do more. Our body feels energized. And usually after we deal with a stressor, after the situation is past, we go back to the parasympathetic or rest and digest response. A healthy human should normally go through these two stages quite easily. It's quite normal to have a variation, to have a bit of stress and a bit of rest, and we go up and down through our day. Ideally, it is easy for us to go through these stages and to regulate ourselves through the day. It becomes problematic when there is too much stress, or it happens too often, or it's too intense. So what happens then? Some people might go into meltdown. During a meltdown, the body reacts as if it's under a threat, leading to intense emotional and physical responses such as crying, lashing out, or withdrawing. Meltdown is, of course, a separate topic that I will cover in another video. Going back to shutdown, shutdown happens when we already pass that threshold and come out of the sympathetic response, when we cannot be in there anymore, when it's really too much, and then our body completely shuts down, and we enter a dorsal vagal response, also known as freeze response. That's when we feel like we really cannot do anything anymore. We are completely offline. We might feel dissociation, shame, numbness, shutdown, depression, hopelessness, etc. If you are autistic, ADHD, highly sensitive, other types of neurodivergent, if you have PTSD, if you are burnt out or stressed a lot, the thresholds are smaller. It's much harder for you to just go through the usual regulation. You get into the stress response really quickly, and you get into the freeze response really quickly. These distances between the different states, they become shorter, and only when healing from burnout, only when learning to regulate your nervous system, reducing stress over time, you can increase them again. It is possible. Even if you are neurodivergent, even if you are autistic, ADHD, or highly sensitive, it is possible to heal yourself and increase those distances again. If you want to know how, please watch my other videos about burnout recovery. I talk a lot about that. Of course, we would love to not have shutdowns at all. So first, let's talk about prevention. The basics of prevention are really simple. And when I tell you how it works, you will say, duh, of course, but it's not so easy. Well, yes, it's not so easy, but I will also tell you how you can do it. So the basics of shutdown prevention is simply learn your triggers, anticipate them, and plan for them. Okay, now how to do that? I will mention some of the most common triggers. It's quite likely that some of them will resonate for you, so you already have a head start here. And of course, you need to watch yourself, reflect on your past shutdowns, and try to identify those triggers. See what was the situation then, what was happening, what had happened before that might have contributed to a shutdown. Usually it's not one thing. Usually it's a few things compounding over time, right? One of the most common triggers is when your body is not taken care of well. I have noticed that 8 or 9 out of 10 times I would have shut down. I have not had enough sleep in the last 24 hours, or not enough food, or not enough water to drink. So if you take care of those basics, you can already reduce the risk of shutdown. Because obviously, if you haven't had enough sleep or you're dehydrated, it's quite likely that you'll have a headache. And if you haven't had enough food, your body feels depleted. You don't have the energy to manage whatever is going on around you. The second most common trigger is sensory stimulation. I feel it very often contributes to the shutdown. If there is noise, bright lights, uncomfortable clothing, or anything else that is too stimulating for you and you just cannot manage that stimulation, and then something else happens. So here you need to look after yourself and look after your sensory diet. See if you can wear noise cancelling earphones or more comfortable clothing, or maybe wear tinted glasses or hats to shield yourself from the bright lights that are around you. And take breaks. If you are somewhere that is loud, maybe you need to go outside every now and then, or go to the bathroom to regulate. The third most common trigger is dysregulated nervous system or dysregulated emotions. If you already have had a few things that have been stressing you, that have been triggering you, that have elicited some types of emotions, you already are more vulnerable and more prone to shut down. Here again, you need to learn to notice those things and to regulate yourself in time before it gets too much and before it gets too late and you go into shutdown. So here are the 3 most common triggers. As you can see, they're very much related to your general wellness and looking after yourself. So if you manage to look after yourself to stay well, it becomes much easier to manage your shutdowns. This is why I prepared Neurodivergent Wellness Guide, which is basically a checklist of all the things you need to take care of as a neurodivergent person to make sure you are well and stay well. I will make sure it is linked down below. So when you know what your triggers are, and you know how to take care of your wellness, it is wise to plan your days and weeks and maybe even months in advance, so you know where the potential triggers might be and you can manage them in advance. It doesn't mean that you have to plan everything to a detail and follow your plan precisely, but planning your time in advance gives you some clarity of how much capacity you actually might have on a certain day or a certain week, and where you need to insert breaks or padding or rest times so it doesn't get too much or too overwhelming. Let's help each other learn about the triggers. I will make a thread in the comments, so please comment on that thread and share your most common triggers and see what others have shared, so maybe you get some ideas and give ideas to other people. Now let's talk about the treatment of autistic shutdown. It consists of 2 major steps. Let's plan your treatment together. Get your phone out, get your notes app, and make some notes. There are 2 ways to plan your shutdown treatment and to manage your shutdown treatment. The first way is you create a treatment plan and make it a note on your phone. And when a shutdown happens and your executive function is offline, you don't know what to do, you open that note app and it tells you exactly what to do because you already made a list when you are well. The second way to manage your treatment is to share this note with people who are around you, your partner, your roommate, your family members, if they are understanding and helpful. So when they see that you are entering a shutdown, they can actually do the things that they know are helpful for you, and you can get that assistance and support through healing. The first step is, of course, you're gonna have to step back and take a break from everything. And at that point, you might want to just lay down, be in silence, go away from any sensory stimulation, or you might want to have some soothing music, some incense or essential oils, or light a candle, or cuddle a pet, basically have a pleasant sensory stimulation. Now take a moment to pause and think, what are the things that are most helpful to you during a shutdown? Is it having zero stimulation, or is it having some stimulation that is really soothing for you? And write down exactly what those are, okay? Take your notes and write down exactly what are those things that help you. Then there is a step 1A that needs to either happen with or before or right after the first step, is take care of your food and drink. As I said, quite often, maybe 8 or 9 out of 10 shutdowns happen when we haven't had enough food or we're dehydrated. So if that's the case, you might want to have some water or have a snack. So this depends on the situations. It's something that you might want to do right before you rest, or this is something that you might want to do once you've rested a little bit. But important thing to know here is, if you are dehydrated or if you haven't had enough food, it's going to be very hard for you to recover properly without having taken care of those needs. The second step to recover is, once you've rested a little bit, once you've had a bit of a time to yourself, it is good to move a little bit, very gently. Maybe you go and make yourself a cup of tea, maybe you go and wash your face, maybe you draw a little bit. But it is important to move, because shutdown is basically freeze response in your nervous system, and once you're frozen and you stay frozen, it's gonna be harder and harder for you to get out of it, especially if you start scrolling. So I would recommend to stay away from your phone on during shutdown, because it actually would make it even harder for you to get out of shutdown. Okay, so write down in your notes app, second step, small movements, and write down what exactly those movements could be for you. Could it be stroking a pet, making a tea, or something else? And when you're making this note, make sure you do mention somewhere food and drink, so that you know it is a very important aspect to take care of when you are shut down or when you are at risk of shutdown. Let's help each other out here. Comment on the thread that I made and share what are your most helpful management tools. What do you like during shutdown, or what movements you think could help you? So let's share tips with each other and learn from each other. If you are prone to shutdowns, are likely prone to burnouts too. Then you need to understand what type of burnout you have, so you can choose the optimal recovery strategy. Watch this video so you can do exactly that, and I'll see you there.